Let me do a screen recording. Hang on. With microphone on. Boom. Today, PLB is going to break down 9 of the most common condo floor plans. Let's dive into this brand new short series. Let's go. Anyway, I have more than 9 floor plans, but what we hope to do during this session is to bring you through the evolvement of floor plans in condominiums through the years and across different seasons of the real estate industry in Singapore. And we hope that through the new understanding of these floor plans, it will help you in your project selection through condo hunting. I'm going to talk about 3 different seasons. The first season was before the 1998 season, and then across the 2000 series, as well as the brand new season, which is where we're in right now. So across these 3 seasons, there was an evolvement in the way floor plans are being structured, and most of the time it has to deal with growing needs and brand new needs of home buyers nowadays, as well as changes by URA, BCA, as well as our government through the types of GFA requirement, the type of incentive for developers to build different types of properties, different types of layouts, and of course how much they can build, how big plus how small can they build, and what should and should not be included within every singular floor plan unit. Let's have a look at the first era. I'm going to brand this era as the Mandarin Goddess era. So why the Mandarin Goddess era? Because Mandarin Goddess was completed in 1986. The lease tenure starts from 1982. And during this season, this was the mega size season. Now, I have also lumped in these 3 particular projects that were completed in the late 1990s so that we can have a nice understanding of what were some of the very common layout plans back then. So let's have a look at Mandarin Goddess. Now, this was the era whereby you have huge, gigantic units, whereby 3 bedrooms were like 1,005 to perhaps about 1,008 plus square feet. Something to note, during this season, you will always notice very unique kind of shapes. So for example, if you look at this particular floor plan, you will notice that there's this curved shape right here. Compared to today's modern layout, today's layout are much more regular. So back then, why were some of these layouts of this kind of shape and sizes? Let me show you the other one. So for example, you'll see this kind of layouts here, and you will notice, hey, why is there like, you know, this kind of flowy shape when it comes to the particular design? Now, a lot of it has to do with the design of the building as well as the architecture of the external facade in conjunction with the shape of the building. So let's take a look at Sims View, for example. If you look at the site plan, 4 towers, but every tower is done in a triangular fashion. And because of that, every unit, of course, looks very different when it comes to the particular tower, when it comes to the particular shape of the floor plans right here. So for example, you'll get to see this kind of jagged shape when you look at the floor plans. That is basically flowing together with the shape of every singular tower. Through the years, what has evolved starting from the 2000 season was the evolvement of these 8 different kinds of evolution. The first thing will be more regular site plans. So let's have a look at a modern site plan. This is the latest one from Amo Residences, and of course you will notice immediately every unit facing towards one direction in a very uniform manner. Nowadays, developers and architects are extremely sensitive to the needs of home consumers right now. Most of the time, they will take orientation to be a direct north-south kind of facing, because over the years, preferences, ground feels and feedbacks have already shown that most Singaporean buyers, they try to avoid the west sun as much as possible because Singapore is humid, it's hot. So most of the time, this will naturally be in the north-south kind of orientation. Most of the time, developers, they will build their towers in this fashion. That means having one direction, and of course the rest of the stacks facing another direction. And that has also minimized the availability of single loading units. What this means is that now the facing is towards the one same direction of your living, dining, with your 3 bedrooms or 4 bedrooms. Your kitchen will face towards the back. That is of course one setback in terms of the modern design. But in modern design, the key functionality is to have very regular shapes, is to have consistent facing for all the bedrooms, and of course the corner units usually have a dual facing. Now when we come back and look at the PPVC requirement. So what is the PPVC requirement? Basically, this requirement spiraled out during the 2014 season towards government land sales. What this means is that it means the evolvement of this kind of walls that are non-hackable. If let's say I'm a young couple, I bought these 3 bedrooms and I want a larger living room, I cannot hack down this wall, and this wall is fixated. So if you're hunting for something of a more fluid motion, of a more fluid kind of design, then you can look out for en bloc developments. The next evolvement was the home shelter evolvement. After the 1997 Civil Defense Shelter Act, these are required for residential projects, HDB, private and landed. There's actually two ways to do it. One is within the unit itself. The developer can also choose to construct the household shelter along the entire stairway core. You get to see two different types of home shelters, but most of the time with home shelters within the unit, they're now being used as storerooms. Some owners use them as pantries. Now the third evolvement was the bay window era. So how did bay window got started? It was actually before the 2008 season where bay windows were exempted from GFA calculations. This became then a loophole for developers with almost an irresistible kind of incentive to put in bay windows. Some projects has enormous amount of bay window because technically speaking, when you put bay windows and planter boxes within the floor plan, it allows the developers to charge buyers for these areas, yet reducing the average PSF cost of development because this additions area were not taxed and they were very cheap to construct. So if you look at some floor plans, some of the bay windows and planter boxes are about 20% of the unit itself. For bay windows, over the years, a lot of renovation designs has gotten creative. So there are many different usages for bay windows. But after the 2009 season, government introduced a new ruling to say that developers can no longer feature indiscriminate use of such elements, and that started the abolishment of bay windows. The next evolvement will be balconies. Some key facts about balconies. Now, the total balcony size for each dwelling unit is capped at 15% of the internal net unit size. This excludes voids, air-conditioned ledges, and other external ledges. So let's take a look at comparison of the modern as well as the older floor plans with no balconies. One of the reasons why balconies was evolved was because of the increasing land size plus this thing called the bonus GFA incentive. And of course, that incentivizes developers to have balconies within every unit because that creates like a bonus GFA on top and above the master plan gross plot ratio. However, that is subjected to a maximum of 10% of the MPGPR. So this is like an additional incentive that developers can enjoy to create sort of like an additional space. You can go to like 2-3 bedrooms. One is like 1,002 plus square feet. The older one is at 1,002 plus square feet. Maybe this was before 1998 and this is the current era. You will sort of feel that somehow this older one will feel much larger. Now, the key rationale is because right now, not only do you have that balcony space, you also have that AC latch. You also have that RC latch. Because of all this, you will sort of feel that the space has shrunk. Rooms are getting smaller compared to the previous era whereby if you were to look at some of the very common floor plans, this is a 1,238 square feet layout. However, the moment you enter into that particular unit, you'll get to feel the enormous size and the longish shape and width of the dining space together with the living space. You also have like a huge kitchen, huge yard, utility room for your helper, you have a yard bath, you still have a nice long entry walk with a store, a common bath, and of course you have 3 very good sized bedrooms. Now, if you notice this floor plan, firstly, there are no balconies. Secondly is that if the balcony has a maximum percentage of the internal net area, basically 15%, this is about 1,238 square feet, there's no balconies, there's no RC latch, there's no AC latch as well. A lot of these space are now pumped within the steppable area. So that is one of the key rationale that you cannot feel the space right now for brand new units. The kicker is that brand new project or newer projects after the 2000 season, you get better kind of facilities, you get better, nicer facade, there's better landscaping downstairs, better usage of space. You get sort of like a better feel in terms of architecture. And of course, there's a bit of plus minus for older projects and newer projects, and we'll leave it for you to balance out on what you're buying into. So the next evolvement was the refuse chute, because in the past, older projects have refuse chute within your layout. You get to throw your trash without stepping out of your home. Right now, new projects, most of the time, they are using the pneumatic waste system. They call it the PWCS, and usually this is the centralized bin center. Now, of course, this technology is better for the overall project as well, because older projects, every stack, you have that collection point right at the basement, and sometimes the car park in the basement has pest infestation. The newer kind of system is a pneumatic system that centralizes all collection. Every tower, though it might have 6 to 8 units, but all the residents of that level need to come out to the common lift lobby area to throw their trash into the rubbish chute or the recycling bin. They will then go down to a centralized system like what this picture depicts. Even HDB apartments, some of the estates are already using the PWCS system. This is a requirement right now. Since 2018, all brand new private residential developments with more than 500 units will have to use the PWCS system. We think that is a great move. It's just that you have to walk out every time to throw your trash right at the common lift lobby. Of course, that also minimizes having cockroaches within your particular home as well without your own refuse system. The next evolvement is the wide versus the narrow living room layout. Now, what is this? A lot of the newer layouts, they have this kind of narrow layout plan. You walk in, you usually pass through the kitchen first. Second zone is the dining, living, and balcony. So we call this the narrow layout. This is one of the most common layout here because this is the most efficient way to have your bedrooms towards the side, and that allows your master room, your bedroom 2, bedroom 3, and your living room balcony to face towards the same direction. This is what we mean, whereby your kitchen usually opens up towards the back with or without windows. One of the new evolvement is that now a lot of the ensuite and the bathrooms are using the ventilation system. They no longer have windows towards the back. The bathrooms and the kitchen usually opens up towards that void, and this is of course the area that you might see your next door neighbor. When we look at the other type of layout, this is what we call the wide layout. What is the wide layout? The wide layout has this living and dining that faces the balcony together. This is now reserved for more premium kind of units. So most of the time, 4 or 5 bedders, they will get this. Or the largest version of 3 bedders, they will get this kind of layout. Because this has a wider width in totality. And usually developers, they will structure this kind of layouts for the more premium units. And of course, this layout, it allows for a better flow, a lot more natural light coming into the dining and living together rather than having that narrow version. This is of course a very well received and popular layout that a lot of families would love to have. So that is one of the other evolvement. And of course, the next one we want to talk about is the loft. So usually when you go to look at some of the newer floor plans, the moment you start to see dotted lines, you will see they will define the strata void area above the living or dining, or maybe above the master room. So when you have that loft, you need to be very clear that when you have that loft, you can create maximum 5 square meters of loft space with your own furniture deck, or maybe your own construction of that loft decking at the top. Anything more than that is not under the guidelines, and you need to make sure that your loft is up to 5 square meters. And of course, anything that is creatively done across that fashion, you have to seek approval from BCA and URA, and of course your own MCST. This evolvement basically is a nice beauty because sometimes when you are hunting for high ceiling spaces, you get ceiling spaces that is like 4.5 meters or 5 meters. That creates a very nice room on top of the living, dining, having that kind of high ceiling concept. You feel more roomy, you feel more spacious, and this is one of the very nice add-on in today's architecture. So to sum it up for you, newer condos through the evolvement with balconies, ACs, RC ledges, although you have smaller internal sort of livable area. Nowadays, of course, some of the more creative usage of balconies is to have balcony screens, is to have zip track, so you can pump out your aircon, close down the zip during rainy days, sort of utilize your balcony as an outdoor space or outdoor dining space. Now, a lot of residents, they enjoy very regular layouts, very nice consistent facing, full panel height windows as well. No longer having that bay window. It's now hard to find the single loading concept because of this combination of the modern evolvement. Single loading nowadays is a little bit harder to find unless you go for a very luxury project whereby there's a lower density, 1 tower, maybe only 2 stacks, and they have that front and back facing. Want to quickly dive into the different types of layout for you to have a look. So this is the studio layout. So usually studios, they will be at about this kind of sizes. And you will notice the definition of a studio is that there's no proper 1 bedroom inside. The bedroom and the living is sort of like combined. You have that kind of like hotel concept that you're going home to every day. Very suitable for singles and bachelors, or maybe even young couple that just want to start off small. The next version will be the 1 bedroom layout. So 1 bedroom, you will have a proper master room. That's the definition of a 1 bedder. The next one will be the 1 plus study kind of layout. Nowadays, a very common layout is that the study room will be tucked into one corner that you can do up a sliding panel glass right here. It usually can also double as a walk-in wardrobe space. It can also double up to be like a separate pantry or dining space area, or maybe like a movie room as well. Sometimes the study is tucked beside the master, sometimes it's tucked away from the master, so it depends on what kind of layout that you're going for. The next one, you might be a little bit confused when you visit show flats nowadays. You start to see 2 bedroom standard, 2 bedroom compact, 2 bedroom premium, 2 bedroom compact plus study, 2 bedroom premium plus study. Basically, what does this mean? Now, the evolvement of the word standard and compact is sort of quite similar. Nowadays, when you see compact or standard, it would mean that there might only be 1 bathroom of a Jack and Jill fashion. You have dual entry. One is for your master room, sort of serving like an ensuite, but you have a secondary door that allows your guests to enter from the living room as well. So the other bedroom plus your master room, basically, you have to share one bathroom. Usually this will hover around the 600 square feet kind of range. Premium will mean that there's 2 bed and 2 bath. There's also this evolvement of a dumbbell layout. So what do we mean by dumbbell layout? Basically, dumbbell layout have that living dining kitchen right in the middle with the 2 bedrooms towards the left and right flank. This means that both occupants of the bedrooms, they can come to the center portion to commune. Rather than having that space being spread into the walkway, the space is now pumped back into the center core of the living dining and kitchen space, thereby letting the residents feel that there's a little bit more livable space within the particular floor plan itself. So the next version will be the 3 bedroom, and if you notice 3 bedroom, like what I mentioned, having that narrow layout, usually with a walkway towards the master, and 2 bedrooms, so having the bathrooms services zoning right towards the back. So of course, when you look at 3-bed premium, the definition of a premium for 3-bedders versus the compact one is that 3-bed compact will also have 2 bathrooms, 3-bed premium also have 2 bathrooms, but additionally, 3-bed premiums usually have that utility room at the back, or they have yard area plus utility room plus a yard toilet as well. Utility room can be situated right in the middle that allows you to open up into the walkway as well, creating like a dual entry. There's many different versions, and as long as you see a premium, most of the time it will mean that you have an additional utility room towards the back. But you need to be careful as well, because sometimes you might see 3-bed premium with the utility room, and then there might also be another layout called 3-bed plus study. Sometimes plus study will mean that you have an additional study area, but you might not have that utility room at the back. So this is something to take note of in terms of differences, because you might be paying more for a 3 plus study compared to a 3-bed premium. But this has a utility room, this does not have a utility room, but you have the study. And so if you have a live-in helper staying together with you, you need to figure out which layout might be more worth it for you, because you definitely will need a separate room for your helper to dwell in. And you have that 4-bedroom layout. And most of the time, when you talk about 4-bedders, the key definition between a 4-bedroom and a 4-bed premium might be the introduction of a private lift. 4-bedders, usually they will definitely have that utility room, and most of the 4-bedders, what developers try to do is that they try to pump in the dry and wet kitchen. They will usually introduce like a gourmet kitchen, and premium ones, they will pump in a private lift. If you look at this premium one, you'll notice also that on top of having that private lift, take note that the private lift is not counted into your space, but the private lift lobby is counted into your space, because the private lift is a common lift shaft that is serving all different levels, but the private lift lobby belongs to you. So anything that you step out onto your unit belongs to you, you need to pay for it. And most of the time with this, they also introduce like a separate junior master towards one side of the living area, and you also notice a dry and a wet kitchen and the store. And most of the time when you have the private lift, you definitely have the exit door towards the service lift at the back, so you have a dual entry. Basically, the service lift is the escape door requirement for fire safety, but most of the time it's also great for delivery to come, furniture delivery and stuff like that. Sometimes you might be wondering, hey, the balcony is really getting huge, and of course 4-bedders and 5-bedders has one of the largest balcony, because remember, the requirement is that it cannot exceed 15% of the internal net usable space. Because the 4-bedder is larger, the balcony also can be larger in the sense. In fact, if you look at this, it's almost like close to the same size of a living and dining space. But this is something that we all have to take note of. It's part of the new design. When you look at a 5-bedroom, you'll also notice that it's quite similar to the 4-bedder. It's just that there's an add-on 4th bedroom towards this part here, and of course these are the brand new kind of design. Also fantastic layout. There are some projects with 5 bedrooms masonette, and we have to bring about this because this is now aging into the penthouses category, and that is the last 2 categories that we want to talk about. For penthouses and masonettes, we want to reserve for the other episodes where we dive into some of the most common layouts for penthouses in episode number 2. Last but not least, dual keys. We want to share with you the few key layouts. Firstly, the dual key without a proper kitchen. Mainly, these are what we call dual keys with a studio suite. You have a common foyer, you have 3 doors, your main door, and 1 door here, 1 door towards your suite. And the suite, of course, you can rent out. You can stay in this portion of the property. It can be a 3-bedder dual key, meaning that you have 1 bedroom here and 2 bedrooms here. So you can stay here, you can rent out here. Alternatively, you can also stay in the smaller one and rent out the bigger one, so we leave it to you. Or you can rent out both, and this has evolved into a great investment option for a lot of residential investors. It also acts as a retirement plan as well, because you can stay in one unit, rent out the other to supplement your monthly mortgage as well. You need to know a few key things when it comes to dual key. Number 1, some dual key units have no proper kitchen within the suite. So look at this. This kind of layout has a nice proper kitchen with a sink and an induction cooker system. Naturally, if you want to rent out this, it must have an ensuite, it must have a proper bedroom concept and a wardrobe, and of course having its own kitchen is an added bonus. So usually dual keys with a proper kitchen, it can fetch more in terms of rental command. Also, the second thing you need to note is when you want to rent out, you must install a separate electrical meter at the foyer area. So have an electrician come in, make sure that you segregate the proper electrical usage so that it's easier to bill your tenant when you rent out that part. And you don't have to get into a dispute to calculate who uses more electricity, so you can get all complicated. And of course, take note of internet usage, and you can structure what kind of things you want to throw into the rental package for your tenant. This is especially important if you're not staying there in the dual key unit and you're renting out both sides to two separate tenants. You definitely need to have two separate electrical meter reading right there. Whether you're buying something with that PPVC requirement or not PPVC requirement, because for example like this floor plan with that PPVC requirement, what this means also is that in future, let's say you decide not to rent out anymore and you want to hack down walls to create like a bigger living area by tearing down that wall that's separating your studio with your main unit, and you want like a bigger living space because maybe you just want to recreate the layout and stuff like that. If you buy PPVC, you can't do that. But of course, if you buy something that is a dual key without that PPVC requirement, for example like this wall, you can tear it down and then you can basically have a bigger hall in totality. When you look at Jam Residence, they have this very beautiful 3-bedroom trios, which is called the triple key. When you buy this unit, you have 4 entrances. Main entrance at the foyer, one door to this unit here with its own bath and its own pantry area, one more door to this area that you can rent out as well, and one more door to this area that you can rent out. So basically when you buy one unit, it's sort of like buying 3 at one go, but you're only paying for one title. So basically you can rent out all 3. Something that's beautiful about dual key is that you don't need to really worry too much about rental vacancy, because anytime one tenant exits, you still have 2 running rentals. You can just take your time to find this one because the impact in reduction of rental is not much because you're separating into 3 or maybe 2 units. So this is the beauty of dual key, and if you like that kind of investment concept of dual key, you can go ahead as well. Welcome to the end of today's first episode on the breaking down of floor plan series, and we hope that this particular episode will help you in your choice selection when it comes to condominiums hunting right here in the Singapore real estate market. My name is Melvin Lim, PropertyLimBrothers. As always, happy to show the place. We'll see you in the next episode.